Okay, I want to take the time in this part 3 of chapter 1 to talk about a couple of things that aren't in the textbook. So, in other sources, we have different categories that are listed for assistive technology. So there are 7 principal categories of assistive technology. So positioning, that refers to how we prop people up and allow for maximum physiological functioning. So how one is, put into a posture, sitting effectively to work, to be able to wheel, etc. So in this case, we'll define that as refers to the best posture to allow for maximum efficiency and comfort during typical functioning. I mean, imagine doing homework reclined in an easy chair. You're probably going to doze off. We want to be able to put people in a proper position to do the task that they need to do. Second category is mobility. Refers to any active movement. So we can talk about moving, any limbs. And appendages. So we use things like white canes to be able to be mobile for individuals who are blind, wheelchairs for people who have limitations in mobility, scooters, wheelboards, scooter boards, etc. That are used for adaptive PE. Another category is augmentative alternative communication, also known as AAC or AUGCOM. This helps people communicate with each other, so we can use things like picture boards or picture books, as well as high-tech devices that are electronic in nature that synthesize voice. We also include gestural language like sign language, American Sign Language, Brazilian Sign Language, etc. in there. Computer access, this allows people to be able to use computers because there are a lot of computer-based technologies that help people adapt to their environments. So for instance, if you look at Dr. Hawking, who's a really great figure when we talk about assistive technology and marrying devices together to allow accessibility. For him, what he used to do is he used to use a clicking system. So he used to use a roller ball and one thumb to be able to select choices, word choices and phrasal choices on a computer screen, and then be able to export that out to voice synthesis. So something that would speak for him because he had a tracheotomy and unfortunately his vocal cords were cut, so he doesn't have the power to use his voice anymore. Today, he actually uses something that is a relay system that picks up and registers his eye movement. So his eye movement and their fixations using infrared actually allow him to select the same words on the screen. But we also have people that use head mouse pointers also to be able to hover over objects like icons on the screen to execute them. Hover over characters on an on-screen keyboard so they can actually execute the strokes that they need to type out documents as well. Adaptive toys and games. So this provides children with disabilities the opportunity to play with toys and games as well as interact with others, because usually other children are engaged in those. So if we have a pneumatic switch, so a switch that's operated by airflow, and a squeezy toy that's attached at the end of that children would be interested in, it causes both things. One, the student can activate the switch by actually squeezing the toy, which is a nice thing for them to be able to do, and it also causes social engagement because the other kids are going to be interested in what that is, how that works, and the fact that it's a toy. We can also talk about adaptive environments. So any modifications, wheelchair ramps, lowering counter height, safety and security features for non-slip features in the bathrooms, all of those are adapting the environment. We can also talk about instructional aids, so things that help students learn functional behaviors and life skills. So for instance, in classroom that deals, with a majority of students that have autism, we might have a fully functional kitchen in there, and that kitchen then becomes an instructional aid because it teaches them life skills, what to do, what not to do in that environment, as well as surviving through being able to eat. Another thing that your textbook doesn't talk about that I think is really important right off the bat is that really what we're talking about anytime when we're selecting assistive technology is a person-technology match. So we need to account for many different components of that person's lifestyle, if not all components of that person's lifestyle, for them to be able to accept and use the technology to its maximum potential. So AT is not one size fits all, just like the IEP process. The emphasis is on the I, on the individual. AT evaluation is done to be sure that the device matches the user's needs and attributes and the task that needs to be done. So, some people, I'm a runner, some people manage to do crazy things like run a marathon, 26 miles barefoot, because they don't have any issues physiologically. Every individual runs a different way. Your gait, your bone length, your joints, all of those things come into play, many different variables. So while some people are able to do that, other people have to use orthotics. They have to actually use not orthotics, they have to use orthopedic struts and cushions to be able to function, to orthopedic devices, so they can actually survive 26 miles running. Another thing that the first chapter doesn't clarify on that I think is also important is the difference between instructional or educational technology and assistive technology. So when we talk about instructional or educational technology, it refers to technology used in the education of an individual. So any individual, we talk about any individual, all students, having technology used to better their education. Okay, it includes software to remediate academic weakness. And that's another thing we need to talk about, the difference between remediation and compensation. So compensation. To remediate is to try to close a gap, usually in achievement. So if I'm behind a year in reading, we do some strategies, right? And we might make some accommodations to be able to catch up. That's remediation. Compensatory devices, or to compensate for a disability, replaces the actual natural capability that one doesn't have the option of doing. So for instance, if I lose a leg, I'm going to have to use something else to compensate for losing that leg to help me in my mobility. So either a prosthesis, a wheelchair, a cane, crutches, those compensate for my lack of the equipment, the actual leg.